A long time ago, one of my favorite tent companies was a company known as Nemo. They made some of the coolest shelters out there. At that time, I really liked the design of their shelters. I liked the color scheme that they used. That was roughly 10 to 13 years ago. Eventually, there was a change at the company, and what I'm talking about is a certain material known as SilNylon. SilNylon is a very strong material. It can be very, very waterproof. It can also be very lightweight. But at the same time, there's a problem. The material stretches like crazy, especially when it gets wet. Because of that con, the design of the tent became super, super important. You had to have the right design of tent to handle that type of material and to handle that type of stretching. Allow me to paint you all a picture of what I'm talking about here. So let's say that you had one of these Nemo tents that featured SilNylon, right? You would go out for your trip, set up your tent, put the fly on, get it as taut as possible, right? As the hours went by, the material would stretch. As you would go into the night, maybe it would rain, or maybe it's just humid, there's a lot of dew, the material would stretch like crazy. It would stretch so bad that you would basically have to make adjustments to the fly to make it taut, or try to make it taut, like every single hour. But of course, you have to sleep. Because of this, by the time you wake up in the morning, the fly had stretched so much that it was laying on the inner, blocking virtually all airflow from the outside. Condensation's a huge problem, and because the fly is laying on the inner, all of that condensation would fall inside your tent, and every single thing inside of your tent would be wet by morning, be absolutely soaked. I experienced this over and over and over with shelters from this company. The last trip out that I did, I was using a bivy tent made by Nemo with that type of fabric. Woke up in the morning, I don't think it even rained. It was just dew on the ground, on the tent, that caused the sagging. Every single thing inside of my tent was soaking wet. I was soaking wet, and I was like, okay, this is it. I cannot keep doing this. I gotta take a break from these products. They're just so terrible. You may be wondering why I spent the last 3 to 4 minutes talking about this. The reason is simple. Nemo has been able to solve the issues that come with a SilNylon fabric. In other words, they've been able to develop a proprietary type of fabric that's just as waterproof, just as strong, just as lightweight, but it doesn't stretch. Because of that, my friends, I am back with testing out Nemo products. And this is where we will start. What I have here is the Nemo Hornet Elite OSMO 2-person tent. What this tent offers is the best of the best that Nemo can develop and produce today. In other words, this is their most advanced tent ever. And without a doubt, this is a type of material that I've never seen before, and with this tent, it has features that I've never seen before. While this episode will be very much a preview of this tent, do know this: I have begun testing out this tent, and I will be sharing with you all my thoughts and impressions based upon the usage that I have already. I certainly have more testing that needs to be done, but already I do have some experience with this shelter under my belt. With that being said, my name is Luke. This is the Outdoor Gear Review. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Folks, let's take a look at this tent. What you are looking at here is the storage bag for this tent. This measures 19 inches long, 4 inches wide, and it has a depth of 2 inches. With this bag here, up at the top, we have a roll top. We also have this loop here for hanging. As far as what you receive with this tent, you have the storage bag here. You receive 4 guy lines, a repair kit for your tent pole, and you receive 6 tent stakes. You receive the pole system, the tent inner, and also the tent fly. With the pole system here, this is Y-shaped. This is not your typical X-shaped pole. And because of that, this is not a freestanding tent. This is a shelter that has to be staked out. Now check this out, everyone. This is the spreader bar for this tent. That is quite interesting. I've never seen this design before. Most of the time when you have a spreader bar, it is feet long so that you can spread out the inner. But with this one here, it's only about 6 or 7 inches long, and it only spreads out the top of the tent that much. Taking a look at the inner now, let's go over the features. So as you can see here, the tent is primarily covered with mesh all the way down. You do have a bathtub floor that sticks up roughly 7 inches on the sides. It's a little bit higher down at the foot, and it's very high over here at the head. On this side of the tent, and also the other side, you have this cord with this hook. This attaches to the fly, or I should say, they attach to the fly. With this shelter here, we have 2 doors, one on each side. Each door has 2-way zippers and also corded zipper pulls. On top of this tent, up here at the head, you can see that we have this section of orange-yellow fabric. This is so that you can take your headlamp, put it in this pocket, there's a sleeve on the inside, and it will diffuse the light, basically illuminating the majority of the tent. As you can see there, the zippers are very, very smooth. What I have here in my hand is a toggle that connects to this piece of hardware over here, and that holds the door in place when it's rolled up. This is very smart. I've never seen this before, but I like it. With the mesh rolled back, you can see door number 1. Door number 2 is exactly the same size. Overall, it's not bad. It's not the largest door at all, but you do have to keep in mind this is an ultralight tent, designed to be as lightweight as possible. When looking on the inside of this tent, we have 2 mesh pockets, one on each side, and we also have the illumination sleeve up at the top, which we've already talked about. You can see here how big, or I should say how small this tent is. So again, this is a smaller size tent designed to be as lightweight as possible. This is the lightest weight tent that Nemo makes. With that being said, let's go ahead and let's measure this tent so I can give you all some real world dimensions for this shelter. As far as real world length goes, you're looking at 72 inches. So if you're 6 foot and under, you can use this tent. Any taller than that, and I would not recommend it, your feet would be touching the back wall and your head would be touching the front. This tent does slope down. So towards the foot at the highest peak here, it is roughly 31.5 inches tall. The highest point is 38 inches tall, and it also slopes down a bit. As far as width goes, 37 inches down at the foot, 42 inches up at the head. With both of the trips that I've done with this tent so far, it is plenty large for myself. But I've had a question. Is this really large enough for 2 people? Can we even fit 2 regular sized sleeping pads inside of this? I was asking this question because, again everyone, this is a very small tent and I want to ensure that it's actually a 2-person shelter. First up everyone, I have the Nemo Tensor sleeping pad. This is a rectangle shaped pad. And right next to it I have the Thermarest X-Therm. And yes, indeed, they both fit. Both sleeping pads fit. That's good. But can 2 people actually fit inside of this tent? You have to keep in mind that the walls are sloped on each side. So, is there going to be enough space in here with 2 people on their pads? Can you actually be inside of this tent, be comfortable with these sloped walls? Let's find out. Okay. So, on my pad here, and it doesn't matter which side that I would be on, you can see that my arm, my shoulder, is actually pushing this tent to the side. You have to keep in mind the other person that's inside of this tent with you would also be doing the same thing. So for 2 people to sit up, it would be almost impossible. Laying down though, it's somewhat possible. my arm is still pushing into the side of the tent. The other person over here would be doing the same thing. I'm going to say, everyone, to call this a 2-person tent, it's a stretch. This really is more of a 1.5-person tent, meaning a 1-person tent with enough space for gear. You could cram 2 people inside of this. You would have to be really, really close with that person because you're going to be touching shoulders. You're going to be bumping into each other all night long unintentionally. And at the same time, you're going to be pushing the walls of this tent out. As you all can see, the tent has been set up fully. On this side, we have door number 1. This side, we have door number 2. When it comes to the area where your head is going to be, you can see that the fly is not a full fly, it's a partial. That's why we have this extended fabric panel on the inner. That is going to protect you from rain. On this side of the tent, the fly goes down a whole lot further. On each door, over the zippers, we have a storm flap. When it comes to the stakeout points, those are adjustable. And it needs to be mentioned, with this tent, there are no vents. And that's okay, because honestly, vents do very, very little to assist you with airflow and moisture control. The majority of your airflow and moisture control comes from the air that's going underneath the fly, making its way to the inner. With this tent here, the airflow inside of it is excellent, and that's because the fly pulls away from the inner all the way around. Lastly, folks, I mentioned that 4 guy lines are included with this tent. Their placements are up here and down there. There's 3 up here at the head and 1 down at the foot. Now everyone, let's go over the stats concerning this tent real quick. This is a 3-season tent, meaning that it's designed to be used in the warmer months, certainly not in the winter. There is a 1-person version and also a 2-person version of this tent. This tent is not freestanding at all. It has to be staked out to be set up. Concerning the proprietary materials, this is what they call the OSMO poly-nylon ripstop fabric. 4 times better water repellency and 3 times less stretch when wet than SilNylon. We have no-seam mesh, DAC Featherlight aluminum poles, and aluminum tent stakes. The waterproof rating for the fly and also the floor is 1200. The weight of this tent is 2 pounds, 1 ounce. Incredibly lightweight. And lastly, when it comes to the price of this tent, $660. Now everyone, let's go over my impressions concerning this tent. Again, I have 2 trips out with it. So, as far as quality goes, top notch. This is a very well-made tent, there's no doubt about it. Every seam is perfect, every stitch is perfect. The seam tape, perfect. There's no loose threads, nothing like that. And there shouldn't be. For $660, this tent should be perfect. When it comes to the materials, I have to say I am incredibly impressed with this poly-nylon. This is a game changer. It's just as lightweight as SilNylon, but it doesn't have that stretch. And I can tell you all that the fabric stretches extremely little. I've had this tent out for 2 trips. Both of them were wet. Unfortunately, I didn't have any heavy rain on those trips, but it was wet. There was no stretching of the fabric at all, which is incredibly impressive. As far as the size of this tent goes, it is certainly on the smaller side. This tent was designed to be as lightweight as possible, and you could see the corners that the company has cut. On the back side, you do not have a full fly. It tapers down at the foot. It also drops down at the foot. The fly doesn't go down as far as you would expect it to down at the foot either. The top of the tent doesn't spread out as much as you would want. Again, these are concessions that had to be made to keep the weight down. The question is whether or not that has impacted the usability of this tent, and the answer is yes. As far as this being a 2-person tent goes, that is a stretch. If you're going to use this with a second person, be prepared to be close, and to be bumping into each other all night long. Because of that, I really can't say this is a 2-person tent. Technically, you can make it work, but at a cost of comfort. This really is more of a 1.5-person tent. This is good for 1 person plus gear, and that does need to be considered, especially with the fly design. The fly does not go down very low which benefits in ventilation. But with that being considered, the items that you have in the vestibule space could get wet in certain situations. As far as the length goes concerning this tent, 6 foot and under. I do not recommend this for anyone over 6 foot. And I would say focus on the under part. 6 foot is the absolute max. And even then, your sleeping bag may be touching the walls here. To be truly comfortable inside of this tent, I would say 5'10", right there and under. Is this tent lightweight? Absolutely. It is impressively lightweight for a 2-person tent. As soon as you go hands-on with this, it will impress you. Next everyone, when it comes to the storage size, it is very impressive. Once you have the tent inside of the bag all rolled up, this is a very small and compact tent. It is not going to take up much space inside of your backpack. I've already mentioned it and I'll mention it again. Ventilation inside of this tent is fantastic, or at least it has been on the 2 trips out that I've done. This is something that I will continue to test out going forward, just as I will concerning waterproofness. While both trips that I've done out with this tent so far have been wet, neither featured heavy rainfall, so stay tuned. I will do my best to have a test night episode with this tent, where we will push this tent to the limit. One thing I'm curious about is down at the footbox there. The cut of the fly is narrow and you can actually see the inner. So let's say that it's windy and raining. Is that fly enough to protect the inner? I will find that out and I will report back. When it comes to the headlamp pocket, the light diffuser, that yellow piece of fabric, it works just so-so. It's not the best, it's not a game changer by any means. Ultimately, it didn't really improve my staying inside of this tent. A simple mesh pocket overhead would have done just about the same thing. Again, it just doesn't make that much of a difference. Now everyone, let's talk about the one thing that really has irked me when it comes to this tent. This tent includes 6 tent stakes. That's not enough tent stakes to even guy this tent out. You would need at least 4 more. You have to include those yourself. This costs $660. That is ridiculous. They give you the 4 guy lines, but don't give you enough tent stakes to actually use them for a tent that costs $660. That's not right. And that, my friends, wraps up this preview of the Nemo OSMO Hornet Elite 2-person tent. Hopefully I got that right. Do know that the company Nemo offers a number of Hornet tents. So if you're interested in this one, make sure that you get this one and not an alternate version of this tent. I am happy to say that Nemo, in my opinion, is back. This material here makes that much of a difference. And going forward, I hope to see this fabric being used on all of their tents because it's a game changer. Lightweight, waterproof, and strong with very little stretch. Those are all big, big wins. In this episode, I have certainly said a lot. Now it's your turn. Comment down below, share your thoughts. What do you all think about this tent? Do you think it's going to hold up during the rain testing? Share your predictions in the comment section down below. A special thank you goes out to Nemo for making this review possible. That's right, folks. This is one of the rare situations where I've actually received a product from an American company so that I can give it an honest review. And that's exactly what I'm doing. As always, my thoughts, my opinions, my impressions of this tent are my own and are based upon an agenda-free perspective. I'm here to share real-world information and impressions, and that's it. I'm not here to sell this product to you. I'm not here to sell it for the company. I'm not here to sell anything at all. The purpose of this channel, the Outdoor Gear Review, is to share information, and that's that. You have to keep in mind, folks, there's not many American companies out there who are willing to have real reviews of their products done. It is incredibly uncommon in the outdoor space for a true agenda-free reviews to take place. So, way to go, Nemo. With that being said, I'll be back soon with the rain testing, and we'll see how well this tent performs. Until next time, everyone, do take care, be well, strength and honor. By the way, if you found this episode helpful, please hit the thumbs up. I do appreciate it. See ya, folks.